A very good evening, viewers from within and beyond our borders. We are coming to you live from Hospital Hill in Babane. My name is Otto Adlamini, bringing you the 8 o'clock news bulletin. First, the headlines. The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, says invasive alien plant species have major economic, environmental and social impacts in Eswatini, causing damage to natural landscape and waterways. Jimmy Lopez will replace former Senator Mike Temple in Senate after getting a majority of the votes in the House of Assembly. Newly elected Senator Jimmy Lopez promised to be a team player while executing his duties in Senate. The news in detail. The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, says invasive alien plant species have major economic, environmental and social impacts in Eswatini, causing damage to natural landscape and waterways. The Minister was speaking in a meeting with the Ministry's Portfolio Committee in the House of Assembly held in Eswatini.
The Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs Portfolio Committee in the House of Assembly was briefed on the national strategy for the control and management of invasive alien plant species of 2020 to 2030 by the Ministry of Tourism in a bid to ensure that all stakeholders come on board that can assist in the implementation of the strategy. The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, says IAPS mitigation requires collective effort and commitment in Eswatini.
Sandanezwe sekwaba sihlahla lesisibe sihlava la even ngoba sisanze ecishe lonke lelive sibulale emadlelo sibulale lapho kulinywa khona sibulale emanti sibulale nje into letinyenti so ke silapha sibuka loluhlaka kokuthi nyalo yini lengentiwa kuze kokuthi kwehliswe lona sandanezwe so ke bekune consultant lobe kasibukela ukuthi so wenze kangakanani.
The Portfolio Committee's chairperson, Ndumiso Masimula, says chiefs can play a huge role in ensuring that IAPS are mitigated at community level.
Konke lokungenteka lokudzingathi kwentiwe sive vele kudzingathi kuchamuke emiphakathi nakuchamuke ngemiphakathi leyo nto leyo emathuba ekuphumelela asedulu. Lenkinga yabo sandanezwe indzaba lenkulu mina nje enkundleni la ngisuka khona kalomahasha vele cishe kuyicoverishe lenkundla yonke so angisho lokuthi vele asikayisukumele edulu ngesikhathi lendzaba le suke sayithatha ungathi mhlawumbe kutawuba indzaba yahulumende noma indzaba yazibanibani kodwa ke nyalo kuyabonakala ukuthi laba ngibona balimala ngilesive manje.
The strategy responds to the Sustainable Development Goal number 15.8, which speaks to the urgent actions that must be taken to reduce the loss of natural habitat and biodiversity, which are part of the common heritage, and support global food and water security, climate change mitigation, and adaptation. For Eswatini, TV News Sondomlang and with Fabrice Musonera in Ezulwini.
Jimmy Lopez will replace former Senator Mike Temple in Senate after getting a majority of the votes in the House of Assembly. Lopez defeated Bongani Matsibula by 10 votes since the latter got 30, while the former managed to get 40 votes.
Before the parliament elections to replace former Senator Mike Temple could proceed in the House of Assembly, one of the nominees, Fiso Mabuza, filed an urgent application at the High Court where he wanted the court to stay the elections in the House of Assembly. Mabuza informed the court through his attorney Derek Jade that the Eswatini Revenue Authority had given him a tax clearance which suggested that he has no tax issues. However, that clearance was revoked by SRA. Through their attorneys to Mumdla, the SRA informed the court that police officers furnished SRA with evidence that Mabuza did not declare all his properties. It is alleged that he has 5 motor vehicles he bought cash in 2009 and they only registered in 2012. Mabuza is said to be the owner of some flats at Ebuga and Hlangane respectively, and those flats were not declared, thus contravening Section 96C of the Constitution of Eswatini. The matter was before Justice Cyril Mapanga, and having applied his mind, he dismissed the application. Inside the chamber in the House of Assembly, the Attorney General Sfiso Kumalo informed the House about the judgment of the court.
The matter at which, Mr. Speaker, at 12 noon, the judgment has just been delivered, and the result of the judgment, Mr. Speaker, is that the application has been dismissed.
Security was very tight today in Parliament. Cell phones were barred from the chamber to both members of the public and the members of the House. After a lengthy debate about that, the Speaker, Honorable Petros Mavimbela, made his ruling.
Now I'm making a ruling. My ruling is we proceed with Sue.
After that ruling, members started to cast their ballots. It was now only a two-horse race. Former legislator Jimmy Lopez and Bongan Matsebula. Through their ballots, members said a mouthful. The House voted for former legislator Jimmy Lopez. Lopez got 40 votes, while Matsebula managed to get only 30 votes. The Speaker, Petros Mavimbela, when congratulating Lopez, said he believes that Lopez will use his experience as a former legislator to get himself up to speed with Parliament procedures.
Parliament, Jimmy Lopez, akaqali. Sesiyambongela kakhulu Lopez. Effort lebe kade ayifaka sesela endlini. Sesemva ukuthi ophenza futhi ayifake nangale edimbungeni. Inhlanhla lehle ngumfundisi.
Lopez will have to take an oath before his first sitting as a senator. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Lincoln Kule in Parliament.
Newly elected Senator Jimmy Lopez has promised to be a team player while executing his duties in Senate. Lopez is replacing former Senator Mike Temple.
After the elections, we managed to get hold of newly elected Senator Jimmy Lopez, who was indeed over the moon. Lopez says he gives praise only to the Almighty, who has been with him since his last sitting as a legislator and a member of the House of Assembly.
Glory be to God. Bese ngithi kwangathi uNkulunkulu angawubusisa lo msebenzi, abusise bonke laba ngivotele nalaba ngangivotele, ababusise ngoba sonke siyadinga ubusiso kaNkulunkulu. Bekungeke kube ema-elections kungekho labatawuvota against. Ngitaba team player, because lendlu seyike yahamba yaqhubeka. It is upon myself ukuthi ngihloniphe labahlonishwa lengibakhanze bakhona nalawo ma objectives labekiwe alendlu lengakhanze khona ngisekele nawo until such time when I can have my own dreams and share with the House to benefit the nation.
Lopez was replaced by current Mahlangacha Member of Parliament Musa Ngcobo. During the nominations, Lopez received only one nomination, and the favorites were Sfiso Mabuza and Mongane Matsebula, who have bite the dust. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Lincoln Kule in Parliament.
Women involvement in a local government is still a challenge, and women's voices are still not heard. The Ministry of Housing held a women empowerment seminar aimed at encouraging women to partake in local government. The seminar was held at the George Hotel in Menzini.
Inclusion and involvement in higher positions of authority is still lacking in the country, even in our local government. The Minister of Housing, together with Gender Links, adopted a constitution for young women in local government aimed at empowering women to go for higher positions. The Director of Local Government, Gordon Mbuli, says the aim of the workshop is to empower women where women's voices still lack in local governments, with only 3 women being CEOs of towns out of the 14 municipalities in the country.
For 2 consecutive elections, kuthina munye make lokhona. And nasubathi uyabuka kahle la kunemisindo leminyenti khona. Labo make abekho vele.
He says through this engagement they hope that even in the year 2022 there would be many women who would be voted for in authority and in elections. Leslie Way, the councillor at Sitege and also a presidential member of the local government, challenged women to take part in such activities.
You need to be able to stand your ground, be confident. Now, you've been hearing the saying that our time is now. Yes, it is our time, but we shouldn't take it for granted that it's handed to us on a silver platter. We need to work for it. We need to prove that we have we have made it because we deserve it, not because it's just been handed on. So we really need to be confident in who we are and stand our ground to make our place known as women in local government.
The project is projected to start next year. This workshop is in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, Goal number 5, which speaks to bridging the gap in equality between men and women. I'm Kian Msibi for Eswatini TV News, Manzini.
The Ministry of Agriculture under Animal Welfare is on a mission of visiting places that have been affected by rabies, such as Lobamba and Elangeni areas. According to the Director of Veterinary Services in the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Xolani Dlamini, it is crucial for people around the affected areas to bring their dogs to be vaccinated to mitigate the spread of rabies.
The Ministry of Agriculture under Animal Welfare moved swiftly after discovering that 2 dogs from Lobamba area were infected with rabies by revisiting the infected areas to vaccinate dogs. The Director for Veterinary Services in the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Xolani Dlamini, says that there are other areas affected in Babane, such as Msunduza. Dlamini says people should bring their dogs for vaccination to prevent the spread of the disease.
Sibuyele siphinzisise impela lokumcoka kakhulu ukuthi butsatsha njengathi tonke letinye tifo njengolitiko leka health besolo lisho akusho ukuthi ngoba sokuna covid sekude letinye tifo butsatsha solobo ingode buyabulalana and sibuvukela enjeni ngokuthi sivikele kakhulu ukuthi bungafike kumuntu ngoba bayambulala nemuntu.
Dr. Xolani Dlamini clarified that research has shown that pets cannot transmit COVID-19 to humans. He says in other countries there are cases where people infect their pets with COVID-19 because of the way people interact with their pets. He says that it is quite different for eMaswati because there isn't any close interaction between pets and people. He says that chances of transmission of the virus are minimal. Eswatini is one of the countries working towards 0 human deaths from dog-mediated rabies by 2030. This is the vision of the Global Framework for Elimination of Dog-Mediated Human Rabies. By implementing the framework, Eswatini will move a step closer to Sustainable Development Goal SDG 3.3, which encourages that by 2030, epidemics of neglected tropical diseases be eradicated. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni with Muzim Konda in Babane.
People of Vuvulane community have received fencing and seedling aid from the United Nations Development Program. Kulegani Msweli from Vuvulane, OVC Outreach Foundation Secretary, says this act will go a long way in improving the community. He says the fact that these will be organic foods, when harvested, it means the healthier the community of Vuvulane.
50 households from Vuvulane community have received fencing material and seedlings from the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. The community members say the seedlings will help them to grow vegetables that will enhance their diet, since the COVID-19 pandemic requires people to have a balanced meal at all times. They are now looking forward to start their gardens. Melusi Zigalala, who had come to capacitate the community with the latest farming techniques, encouraged them not to despise farming, since they will be able to feed their families and send children to school through farming.
An aha moment for many of them. It was like, no, that's not new. We have seen mulching, we have seen growing food using animal manure. But because of the practices that are all over around them, the use of fertilizers because of the industrial, like the large-scale farming that is around them, the furrow irrigation because there's a lot of water that is flowing around. But they are also attesting to the fact that those who came in here 10 years ago, it is not the same. The water levels are decreasing and decreasing. So that is also telling us something about the whole situation. The use of chemicals. For them, when you see an insect, you see an enemy, and you need to spray with an a chemical, and that chemical comes directly to hit your life. So if we are able to give sustainable ways of doing life to this community of Vuvulane, we are bringing sustainability to our economy, because their production plays a huge role in our economy.
Vuvulane OVC Outreach Foundation Secretary Kulegani Msweli thanked the United Nations Development Programme for responding to their call for assistance.
Community of Vuvulane remains healthy and alive during COVID. The fact that we were able to have an investment such as having these fenced gardens, and not just any gardens but organic gardens, is really a symbol of a healthy nation.
The Sustainable Development Goals, Goal number 1, talks about eliminating hunger, and with such initiatives, this goal can be met having enough food so that everyone is free from poverty. Reporting is Tembelihle Makutwa with Temba Chabangu, Vuvulane.
Fanelo Nkambule, a young farmer living with disability, says he sees himself growing in farming despite his disability. Fanelo keeps and sells indigenous chickens and rabbits.
A 16-year-old boy from Conveni area with disability and an inaudible speech stays on a wheelchair most of the time, and as a result couldn't go to school because of his disability, but that never hindered his dreams of being a commercial farmer. Through the support he gets from his mother and grandmother, Fanelo heard through the radio that a person can make a living out of farming, which was when he asked his parents to buy him indigenous chickens, which he keeps and sells together rabbits. His grandmother says he doesn't have a stable market but sells to neighbors.
Simlekelelelo kumfiyela leti nkukhu sitiphe sikhona nalokuthi thengisana nasekumele tithengise sesitholela abantu.
When speaking to Namport on how his talent can be nurtured and expand his market, Namport CEO Sipepiso Dlamini says they will have to do some research on his business and see how they can assist him grow his business. I'm Kiani Msibi for Eswatini TV News, Ekunvini.
News just now, or news just in. The country has recorded 4 COVID-19 related deaths in the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of COVID-19 fatalities to 53. The deceased are a 74-year-old man from the Shiselweni region, a 63-year-old man from the Manzini region, a 64-year-old man from the Hoho region, and a 74-year-old woman from the Manzini region. There are 53 positive cases of COVID-19 reported today. The ministry got 408 results, of which 53 tested positive for COVID-19, thus bringing the number of total cases to 2,909 in the country. The Ministry of Agriculture is scaling up its efforts of bringing farm implements, technologies and expertise to farmers in the kingdom amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Director of Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, said this when explaining that the ministry fully understands that the country needs to increase food production, especially during the COVID-19 outbreak.
When unpacking the latest COVID-19 interventions by government, the Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini said some of the challenges brought by the pandemic is the continued rise in food prices. The Prime Minister urged all Eswatini to engage in agricultural production for subsistence or commercial purposes to ensure food security for every family. The Director of Agriculture, Nelson Mavuso, says farmers should contact the ministry or the extension officers in their communities for any farming assistance.
We have structures on the ground. One of them is the RTA system, where we have places where a farmer can just call in to get assistance. We have about 17 RTAs in the country and the 3 training centers. Those are our centers of excellence, where when you go there, definitely you will be assisted on the direction to take, or even in terms of the requirement that you require. Also on the ground we have extension officers. We call them extension officers in general, but otherwise we have assistant extension officers or the frontline extension team that is living amongst the farmers. for every community, you'll have at least one extension officer, even though it is delayed, but we are lucky this time to announce, and we want to appreciate from the government of Eswatini, because they have allowed us to hire an additional 60 officers. Those are already placed on the ground. This coming season, those will be actually be assisting our farmers. Those are placed within the farming communities. There is the regional agriculture extension office. There, when you go there, any assistance, if you can't get it at grassroots, you can't get it at RTA level, you approach the 4 regions in the country, you'll actually find an officer there with all the other assistants. Those are the people that can help you.
Mavuso says it is worrying that only 7% of the country's total area of 17 million hectares is conducive for farming because most of the land is now occupied by housing. He encouraged Emaswati who do not have enough farming space in their homes to resort to urban farming. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Nelson Ngamandla with Mozim Konda in Babane.
The Ministry of Health today started educating health workers on the new regulations provided by the government, which will help in reducing the number of people testing positive and the number of COVID-19 deaths in the country. Epidemiologist Vusi Logotfago says this will help the Kingdom of Eswatini in fighting the spread of COVID-19.
Following that, the Prime Minister announced new guidelines in helping fight the COVID-19 disease from the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health today met up with health workers to engage and train them on the new guidelines and improve their ways of working. Epidemiologist Vuslogo Trago from the ministry says this will improve services offered by health facilities, especially during this period of COVID-19, and that they hope this will also reduce the number of COVID-19 deaths in the country.
Siba nalama trainings alama regional rapid response teams. Ngasho lokho ukuthi siqale Monday whereby sa engage team yakaManzini region just to talk about the guideline because it affects the way how we do our day-to-day business. And then Tuesday, which was yesterday, sahamba beseshiselwe ni region si unpack lama guidelines and babuta lapho bafuna kubuta khona bafuna kuvisisa. Namuhla on a Wednesday we are here in the whole region. Nakhona sitokhuluma ngalama guidelines kule team yakahoho njengoba nawudibuka nombolo takahoho ngathi tifuna kugabzela kulamalanga.
The rapid response leader in the Hoho region, Brian Quinty, says this will assist health workers as they deal with patients as the Hoho region keeps on recording a high number of COVID-19 cases in a day.
Today it's basically orientation on the new guidelines. You will note that when we started early February, the situations have changed. The numbers are increasing by day. So there was a need to sit down and reflect and actually see and project now as to how are we going to deal with the pandemic. Now as a country and as a region, we are noting that the increase of the numbers are actually overwhelming.
The Ministry of Health has reported that 49 people have died in the country due to COVID-19 disease. Reporting I'm Temalang Ndlamini with Muslim Konda, Mbabane.
In our sports news, according to the constitution of the Premier League of Eswatini, no director of a club official of particular club should have any dealings with another particular club, be it administratively or management-wise. The following report will look at if what happened is legal between Mbabane Highlanders and Manzini Wanderers, where Highlanders director revealed that he will be assisting the Wanderers financially while the team awaits the new director.
On Tuesday, two biggest clubs in the Kingdom of Eswatini, being Mbabane Highlanders and Manzini Wanderers, entered a new partnership that we see Mbabane Highlanders boss Ali Khomongwe assisting them financially while they await for the new boss. Their marriage sees them doing so following Wanderers' request to Mr. Ali to assist them finding a director who will assist them in terms of finances. Eswatini TV News team, in a way of giving you news that is fair and accurate, we decided to take a look at some of the rules and regulations pertaining to membership of clubs. Under the Constitution of the Premier League of Eswatini, Article 21, point number 10, No director, official, or player of a club may either directly or indirectly hold or deal in the shares of another club. The article goes on to say that no director, official, or player, club might either directly or indirectly be a member of another club. The article goes on to say that no director or any official or a player that shall be involved in any capacity in the management, administration, or coaching of another club. The article goes on to say that no director, official, or any other player shall act as an agent of another club. When looking at CAF licensing club regulations, it also states that it is in the interest of any club to ensure that their finances are always at safe. When compiling this report, the Office of the Chief Operations Officer of the Premier League of Eswatini was consulted. For Eswatini TV Sports, Rabies Vaccination, Babane.
Chairman of Manzini Wanderers FC supporters Mduduzi Ginenza says the new partnership of Wanderers and Babane Highlanders, where Highlanders boss Ali Khomogwe will be assisting Wanderers financially, while the club awaits a new boss was bitter pill to swallow, but they have accepted the situation since it is the interest of a club in its player where their salaries will be paid. Ginenza was speaking to Eswatini TV Sports in Manzini.
Following the announcement by Babane Highlanders boss Ali Khomogwe revealing that he will be assisting Manzini Wanderers Football Club financially while the club awaits for a new director, Chairman of Manzini Wanderers supporters Mduduzi Ginenza says this is not something they are taking lightly, but they will have to adapt to the situation, knowing that this is being done in the interest of the players. Ginenza says, considering the fact that players have not received their salaries for quite some time now, this is indeed a situation they will accept.
Noma kubhlungu msonera nguvetela ukuthi noma kubhlungu sisengakutayele kangwane ngokuthi a director from another team, especially our rival Highlander rival yethu kakhulu iswalo rival yethu kakhulu, so kulukhuni ukuthi simawesela ukuthi sima supporters singakwemukela lula, kodwa ngicela simawesela sibambe nakulokumcoka kakhulu. Our players will be paid their salaries.
Asked if this will not have an effect among supporters when the two clubs meet, Ginenza says it is highly possible Wanderers supporters might react, but they will have to understand the current situation the club is in.
Let's give this time and see what is going to happen. And these are professional people who are talking about it. I don't think it's a sabotage or whatsoever. Can we give this time? Let's give them the chance.
Ginenza concluded assuring supporters that soon the club's management will be addressing supporters on the above issue. For Eswatini TV Sports, Rabies Vaccination, Babane.
Well, before we wrap up our news, let us once again take a look at our main stories. The Minister for Tourism and Environmental Affairs, Moses Vilagati, says invasive alien plant species have major economic, environmental and social impacts in Eswatini, causing damage to natural landscape and waterways. Jimmy Lopez will replace former Senator Mike Temple in Senate after getting a majority of the votes in the House of Assembly. Newly elected Senator Jimmy Lopez promised to be a team player while executing his duties in Senate. Well, viewers, that's all I have for you from our news desk. Thank you very much for staying with us. At this point in time, please allow me to leave you with the weather update for tonight and tomorrow. Otherwise, from myself, Zoto Adlamini, and the rest of the transmission team, good night.